Hey everybody, welcome back to Word Balloon, or as I've been saying in October, Weird Balloon. And this is another great example of that, a great episode for you. I hope you're enjoying what I've been trying to do this month in particular with, obviously, comic talk like always, but also some other interesting off-the-wall kind of subjects and creators and interesting creative people. I hope you're enjoying what you're hearing here. Questions or comments about the show, reach me via email, john@wordballoon.com. That's the best way to reach me. Yes, I'm on Facebook. Yes, I'm on Twitter, at JohnWordBalloon, and certainly you engage me on those platforms as well. But if you want me to check out your book or any sort of long-form thing, email. Best way to reach me, john@wordballoon.com. Great stuff still to come in October. I hope you're enjoying it. Thanks for listening to the commercials. I know that sometimes they can be cumbersome, but they really help pay the bills, and it's the best way to support Word Balloon. I've got one more spot, and then the show begins. So as always, thanks very much for listening to all of this here at wordballoon.com. Hey everybody, welcome back to Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. As we go into the weekend, it's weird. It is 5 or 6 days before Halloween. But, of course, it's the weekend, so a lot of people celebrate Halloween. Comic stores are going to be celebrating Halloween with Halloween Comic Fest, kind of like a Free Comic Book Day, a mini version of that in terms of there's going to be some free comic books available for you at your participating local comic shops. I'm not sure how many are doing it. I know Aftershock is doing it. And kind of one of the subjects that we discussed today with my buddy Tim Seeley, he's back. Tim is all about Halloween. He's one of the great horror comic book writers and artists of the last 20 years, and has certainly proven that with his great series Hack Slash, which is celebrating an anniversary in December with a very cool commemorative 48-page new original anthology. He talks about that. We also certainly talk about his book, Dark Red From Aftershock, which is on its 7th issue as of this month. And first trade is coming out very soon. But they're celebrating Halloween Comic Fest with a free black and white version of that first issue of Dark Red. He also has a brand new, very funny, dirty, but hilarious comic book that is a combination of sci-fi and porn, frankly, but done in a tasteful way. It's called Money Shot, and it's a very good, fresh concept, and I'm thrilled to talk to Tim about it. It's from Vault Comics, and it's a lot of fun. And if you're not easily offended, I think you'll enjoy it. And I think he's got the right creators. Okay, as described in Bleeding Cool, raunchy feminist comedian Sarah Beatty, Tim Seeley, Rebecca Isaacs, Kurt Michael Russell, all the collaborators on that. Hey, it's funny. And you know something? I'm a raunchy guy, so I got no problem with that. Very, very funny. Not pornographic as far as visuals, but certainly, well, yes and no. I mean, not a lot of nudity in there, but certainly not a lot of talk about sex, and it's human alien sex, which always cracks me up, just like... what was it called? The sci-fi show that used to be on Cinemax that was Forbidden Desires, I think is what it was called. And I always used to do that voice. I enjoy watching Forbidden Desires because it's sex with robots and aliens and things like that, if I can do that voice. Very, very funny. Literally, as I say to Tim, they got me with the first joke. So it's really cool. And of course, also, Tim is now on Bloodshot, and there's a brand new #1 that came out this week. And this will likely, the trade for that will be on just in time for the Bloodshot movie with Vin Diesel. The trailer just dropped for that. Interesting times, and Tim Seeley is in the thick of it. Also, Halloween season, we talk about horror in general. Where is it right now? In films, in television, certainly in comics. And, just like talking about the comic market in general, which has always been a lot of our one of the main subjects when Tim and I get together, I just felt with it being, the season of the witch, Halloween, that let's take a look at horror. Where is horror right now? Where's horror been in the last 20 years or so, or 15 years of the existence of Hack Slash? How has the horror market changed Hack Slash, if any ways? Where is the horror market in today's nerd culture? I think it's obviously very prevalent with the success of God, our buddies like Kirkman and then the zombie culture that followed him and continues to persist to this day. And God, from the twinkling vampires and werewolves of Twilight to, the kind of stuff that Tim believes in too. All the slasher movies of the 80s. It's all in the mix right now, and I think it's a great time for horror, and I think Hollywood is quite relieved of that on a television and film level. And, this isn't the end of my horror discussions. If all goes right, I'll be having more horror discussions that might even bleed into All Saints Day next Friday, depending on when some of these scheduled interviews happen. So, and God, even, well into November in some cases. Man, especially some people that I've really been waiting to talk to for a while now. But happy to have Tim on to talk about the status of horror in today's nerd culture, along with all these great books that he's got coming out right now. Tim Seeley for the hour on today's Word Balloon. All brought to you by the League of Word Balloon listeners. Thank you greatly, League, for your wonderful support via Patreon. Word Balloon is free. It'll always be free. But if you want to help out the cause, if you like what I'm doing right now on Word Balloon, and if you're enjoying the kind of conversations you'll hear here, that frankly, I don't think you get anywhere else. No offense to my other fellow podcasters. There's some really good deep dive interviewers out there that I absolutely respect. We all have our unique voices. And I think you do get a different flavor from each of us. And I hope you enjoy what you hear right here on Word Balloon. If you'd like to help out and help sponsor Word Balloon, is it worth the price of a comic book to you a month? Is it even worth $1 a month to you? If you think so and you can swing it, go to patreon.com/wordballoon or go and click on the Patreon ad at wordballoon.com. Thank you greatly, League of Word Balloon listeners. Word Balloon is also brought to you by Aftershock Comics. They are wrapping up October next week with a lot of great books, man. I'm going to go through what's available now through October from Aftershock. You got Marguerite Bennett and Animosity, issue 24 out. A Walk Through Hell, Volume 2, The Cathedral, Garth Ennis, Goran Sudzuka, easy for me to say, but a tremendous crime book, and I hope you're reading that. You got Wando's Bad Reception. Issue 3 is out right now. Tim Seeley, as I mentioned earlier, Dark Red, issue 7. You also have the new beginning of a brand new arc of Dark Arc from Cullen Bunn and Wando. This is a great series, and I hope you're enjoying that. A look at Noah's Ark from a very different perspective, a bit more of a horror perspective. Horde, a new graphic novel from Marguerite Bennett. Pretty neat stuff there. Jimmy's Bastards, the complete collection from Garth Ennis and Russ Brown. Also wrapped up earlier this month. Great stuff from Owen Marin and, of course, our buddy Ollie Masters. Killer Groove, number 5. Can't wait for that trade to come out. What a great series. Knights Temporal, number 4. Another new series from Cullen Bunn that's really kicking ass. The first volume of Last Space Race, Pale Blue Dot. I'm a big fan. You had me at hello, much like Ad Astra. I'm not going to get into it. I know. Some people didn't like Ad Astra. I did. There's also Shoplifters Will Be Liquidated, a very fun, interesting combination of Judge Dredd and Amazon. Take that for what you will. Stefano Simone, one of the collaborators, and of course the writer is Patrick Kindlon. All right, I want to try and say his name right. I apologize, Patrick, if I'm mispronouncing your name. Hope to talk to Patrick in the near future. Of course, Stronghold, Phil Hester, Ryan Kelly, the first volume, their first graphic novel collection, out this month from Aftershock Comics. And You Are Obsolete, Matthew Klickstein's very interesting new scary series. Really fun stuff. I hope you're enjoying Aftershock. There's some examples of some of their great work. You can go to their website and check it out for yourself. You'll find full story descriptions, preview pages, and the diamond codes on how to order these books through your local shop at AftershockComics.com. Also, Saturday is Halloween Comic Fest Day. Aftershock giving away the first issue of Tim Seeley's new book, Dark Red, at participating stores. To find out what stores in your state are giving this free offer, great way to walk in the door and immediately get one of the top quality free comic books. Google Aftershock Comics and Halloween, and that will take you directly to their page on their website. They've got a URL, but I think it's easier. And like I said, I mean, you'll find it. All you have to do is just Google Aftershock Comics and Halloween. It will take you directly to their page, their 2019 page, and tell you what participating shops in your state will get you a free issue of Dark Red #1. Okay, We're talking about that in our conversation as well with Tim Seeley. It's one of the main subjects that we start off with, and then we get into all these other new books that he's got going on, and also, again, the state of horror in today's nerd culture. Tim Seeley for the hour on today's Word Balloon. It's time for another, we should call these like dining room diatribes or some sort of alliteration or like that, because really it's becoming a habit now where I go to Tim Seeley's home, which I love because he is blocks away from my father, or the location of where my father's restaurant was for 30 years. Yeah.
And the corner store where you got your first comics it's closed now, but the store is still there. So when I walk past it, I always think, this is the block that kickstarted Little Johnny Centris's
It's totally true.
passion. Yeah, that's really interesting.
As much the comic store as Vince's barber shop, and I think I've told you this before, that as a 4-year-old kid, I'm flipping through John Broome, Green Lantern and Flash stories and stuff, Carmine Infantino art and Gil Kane art and stuff, and early Dead Man. You know, it was,
right there,
blowing my mind.
Yeah, it's got a historical significance. They should cordon the block off. And
Word Balloon Way. Yes, that would be great. Doesn't have to be me. Make it the podcast. That's cool. Well, good to see you, man. And first, I should talk because it's only, I'm going to put this out tomorrow, and it's 24 hours away. Halloween Comic Fest.
Yeah.
And our buddies at Aftershock obviously are doing you right and putting out is it a black and white edition of Dark Red?
I think it's a free black and white edition.
Yes, it is free. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, they're doing the Halloween Comic Fest, which is like New Comic Day for horror comics. So they're giving that out at comic book stores, which is great. I don't know what else is coming out, but you should go get some stuff. You know?
Yeah.
No, it's cool. Shop and bring the kids by. And if you're in Chicago's like the biggest Halloween town. We actually got voted the best town for Halloween.
Is that true? That's fantastic.
That's true.
That's excellent.
So, if you're here.
God, last weekend they had the After Dark Parade, which has become a cool tradition and stuff, and I actually got caught, ironically, being the traffic reporter, got caught in the traffic for it, where they closed off streets. I was late to my job. It was terrible. I was very embarrassed. But, that is cool. And, honestly, I like Bill Maher, and, Bill Maher's got enough to say about comic books in general or whatever. Sure. Adults dressing up for Halloween, it's like, fuck you, it's fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I also think the idea that, that the imagination and the fun of that would stop after, that's so ridiculous. It's totally... I know. I was there the moment that my Generation X took over Halloween. I saw it happen here. But I'm proud of us. I think that's
absolutely,
fucking awesome, man. We would do Halloween every day if we could get away with it.
Well, that's the thing. And seriously, it being in between, because I'm like, depending on what demographic expert you look at, I'm technically either the last year of baby boomers or the first year of Gen X.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like 15 years older than you.
So too, right?
They do move the bars.
Millennials got a lot closer to me than they used to be.
Yes.
It used to be like 1984, 1985, and I think now millennials are like 1979 or 1980 or something.
There you go.
So I was 77. So they're moving closer to me. I've staved off being a millennial so far, but...
That's funny. I wouldn't consider it
around.
Yeah, they totally do. No, and like I said, I'm 64. And 64 was always like the last year of baby boomer or first year Gen X. So yeah, I have no idea. But yeah, man, no, and Mar being in his 60s, it's like, okay, I get it. You're that last group that kind of mocked, I think, the people that like comic books and all the nerd stuff and everything.
Sure.
Whereas my generation is 50-50. Some still don't get it. But certainly with the success of everything that's happening, they can't deny the existence.
Also, when a guy I watch Bill Maher every week, but the idea that a guy whose job is to make dick jokes, questions the validity and seriousness of an entertainment medium, you're like, the fuck are you talking about?
Shit.
You just stood up there and fucked up a joke about buttholes, and you're gonna it's such bullshit. So fuck him, but also I like that show. So
I'm the same way, man. No, I'm completely torn as far as that goes. We'll get into all that stuff later because I really want to talk about horror in general and everything. But before we get off Dark Red and everything, so 7th issue came out this week, and
last week I think,
or maybe last week, but yeah. No, how are things going? I mean, I'm assuming you're first Dark Plus in.
Yeah, so the first Dark was 5 issues, which is the trade I think comes out pretty soon.
Cool.
I never know when this shit happens. I just know it happens. Yeah, and then I'm up to issue 9. I'm working on now. So it's it was a hit-ish, like an indie hit when it came out. So that's great, and we were able to keep
sold
doing the
out.
story. Yeah,
one of the reasons why they're doing the black and white.
Right. Yeah, and so
reissue.
Yeah, and I think it's weird. Like, it's a story that I want to tell because I thought I would have some sort of personal connection to it, and that makes it. I think it makes it sort of. All horror stuff works best when you have some kind of personal thing into it. So I think that's kind of why it keeps working. But the ongoing adventures of a cranky rural vampire, and in the second arc, he gets sucked into having to go to Chicago.
Oh, great!
And he hates cities, and he hates. But we sort of get into like if in Dark Red the world is sort of set up on the idea that rural monsters have to become really, really independent because it's really hard to survive without other people, without other monsters, rather. Like, if you're a vampire and there are no other vampires around you, there's no one to like make sure that your coffin is safe during the day. You know what I mean? Like all these things that you wouldn't think about, but like, and he has to. It's much harder. He doesn't have, but he does it out of a principle. That he should be. Like he kind of thinks of himself as being outside of it. And so
outside of the vampire lifestyle,
community of this like community of that sort of stuff. But then we see the other side of it, and obviously this is my criticism of conservatives and liberals both. One is conservative, and the other, Chip is obviously that. And then when you see the cities, you see this backbiting. The vampires in our world that live in the cities, they have community. Like they take care of each other.
Sure.
They welcome each other in. All these things.
A network, absolutely.
But they are backbiting, power mongers that like utilize that to get ahead. Of course. So it's a pretty easy and clear metaphor. But he gets involved with the politics of this group of. This clutch of vampires that live in Chicago, and they come off initially like these sort of super progressives, and then of course a good percentage of them are absolute assholes.
Yeah, they're douchebags.
Yeah, exactly.
It happens. It happens on both sides of the political aisle.
Oh, for sure.
Don't kid yourself.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I have my own politics, but I'm not above criticizing the people on the same side as me. So.
I hear you, and I from social and political standpoints, where it's like, okay, relax. I mean, honestly, here's an innocuous one. When they announced Kevin Feige doing Star Wars movies, and some people on the left are like, oh, great, it's another white guy. It's like, it's another white guy whose movies make between $600 million and $1.5 billion. I think he knows what he's doing. Shut up. Shut up.
But it is that weird thing. Is like that's when you kind of go. You're waiting for the criticism, that criticism. It's going to happen.
Sure.
But you're just embarrassed about it. You're like, it's so easy. It's so fucking easy.
Yes.
Like,
well, and it doesn't. It's bigger than whatever. I mean,
the criticism that never gets put in any of these things is just people are like, oh, it's race. It's like a race thing, but it's also a capitalism thing.
Totally capitalism. It's absolutely.
And it's the way that we treat creatives versus executives, and the way that we treat that people at the top should be given, thousands of times more money and power and control. Like, because we're at this point in capitalism where the only thing that matters is the bump, the hit that they give for the stockholders, right? So Feige is a proven thing. That'll bump their stock prices. If they hire somebody else, they don't.
Right.
So, they don't care about
what's right or what's fair.
Nobody gives a shit.
No, it's money.
It's money. It's always, and
well, that was my argument.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely money. And it's like, no. And also, by the way, woman in charge of Star Wars right now. Don't know if you noticed that.
Right.
Kids on the left. It's like, guess what?
They just have to. It just feels a need to do that, as if what they're by fighting against this sort of things and making them racism or sexism, when they're always going to be about money and power, and because you live in a capitalist society, that's all that matters. Where's the criticism of that? We never get, we never get it.
No,
it's ridiculous. But that's a whole other rant. But my book is also sort of about that.
No, but that's excellent, dude. That's excellent, though. And again, that's why there's a deeper meaning beyond what's on the surface. And I mean, I think you're getting people in the doorway anyway. Just the idea of how does a middle class, middle of the country vampire survive out in the farmland as opposed to an urban thing. So I think that's great. And that's excellent.
And the sort of, as you find out in the first arc, the point of it was that he's about as conservative as far as the original conservatives went, right?
Okay.
But when white supremacists moved into his town, he said that's wrong, and he fought them, and it was horror comics, so he killed them all. But my grandfather is like the traditional idea of what used to be a conservative. He's 95 years old. He fought Nazis. He does not think that white supremacists should be on your side. And so, like, this idea that so many conservatives embrace that shit, or fascism, or or like all this sort of stuff.
This threat that the white male way of life is disappearing, and we got to hang on to it.
It's the other side of stupidity.
Yes,
it's the other, like, where it's just this.
I mean, and some of it is innocent of my neighborhood's changing and I don't like it, which is kind of evil or mean or just mean,
stupid,
and it is stupid, and it's just like, hey, guess what?
Yeah.
They were saying the same thing about your grandparents. Yeah. That weren't British and Scottish and stuff.
Right, yeah. They were mixed and Guidos and everything
Absolutely,
else.
great people. I mean, my God, no. And that's, again, I think my dad and your grandfather would have liked each other because they were about the same age. And yeah, I mean, again, I always felt my dad was a different kind of conservative and wasn't a jerk about other people and other races and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and then this always got to come back to the fucking the capitalism of it all. These people, these supposed conservatives, complaining about people moving into your neighborhood. Who's going to buy your fucking house when you retire? You know, if Mexican immigrants don't come to this country and buy your house, who the fuck else is going to?
Yep.
Because a bunch of broke ass white millennials ain't buying your house. And a bunch of broke ass Gen Zs are not fucking buying your house. So I mean, it's just.
Hey, I'm with you, man.
Again, like. People get cling to their capitalism like it's so great, and they don't understand it at all. It's such a. Anyway, that's a rant.
No, but that was a good rant, man. No, but honestly, I'm thrilled that Dark Red picked up as quickly as it did, and that's great. And
and Corin Howell's an awesome artist on it. And
artist.
She's great, and she brings something to it. Well, it's she doesn't come from sort of history with this kind of comic. She grew up on manga and.
Interesting. Wow. Oh, interesting.
But that's really interesting because she brings a different thing to it. So it doesn't look like, like an old horror comic. It looks new, and she's awesome storyteller and all that. She's teaching me a thing or two because I'm not really a manga guy. So she, when she references something in storytelling, and I'm like, well, where did that come from? And she can say, oh, this is the thing they do in manga. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. I will learn something.
Excellent.
So she's
That's
awesome.
Great.
Yeah, I'm really happy to have her.
Yeah, that is, and truly, as a writer, but someone with an art background like yourself and stuff like that. Mm. Yeah, does that happen a lot with these new collaborators?
Yeah, I mean, I try to. She was someone actually suggested to me, but usually I would have picked somebody, and I would definitely try. I mean, that's why I was like, she was suggesting. I was like, that's perfect because I tend to pick stuff that isn't in my. That I can't do. I don't want to. I mean, I don't. I was thinking like in the '90s. Like the studio guys, Jim Lee would put out a book or Rob Liefeld. They have a guy that drew like him. Maybe I fucked that up. I've never done that. I've never like branded it. With my like. But I always try to get something that I don't know, that'll bring something new to the table. I guess
Sure.
And sometimes I fail, but I think there's something that you gain by sort of being forced to collaborate outside your comfort or your zone, I guess. Mm-hmm. So I'm happy.
Are they? Is Aftershock cool with like deadlines, or is it like pretty much? Oh no, we want them in the can, and so they come out in a regular.
Yeah, it's like everybody else.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. We were pretty far ahead, but actually, I'm probably actually a little bit behind. I'll have to write some goddamn vampires next week. So.
I know, and if you hear the fatiguing Tim's voice, 3-week-old newborn.
Yeah.
Wait, Valentina.
A month as of tomorrow.
Oh, congratulations! Lovely, very cool.
Yeah.
Valentina, and like I said, I couldn't help it being an old Marvel guy. The Countess.
Yes, the Countess.
I think that's her nickname, man. As far as I'm concerned, when I was a newborn, I was all, especially the first couple of weeks, I was all bruised. And they had little socks on my hand and stuff. And there's a great picture of me. And my dad always said, "Wow, it looks like he just went 15 rounds." And he always called me the champ. And so, awesome. I was always the champ. And what's the champ doing? Hey, champ, how you doing? And I'm like, oh, that's great. That was my dad's nickname for me.
That's great,
not Sonny, nothing else.
Oh, shit.
Champ. Yeah, so I love that.
Because I've just been calling her, like, to my wife's disappointment, I call her, like, VT or V or Val or whatever. I've never called her Valentina yet, I don't think.
I understand. Val's a great name. Absolutely, man. No, but she will always be the Countess to me. So
all
that's
right,
great.
I might have to start picking that up. She does have kind of a regal expectation of things, that she cannot be cold, she cannot be... She's like, in any way discomfort, she's immediately screaming, but she's chill otherwise.
Well, I know that's why you're also like, kind of not firing on all cylinders right now.
We're very tired.
That's and I appreciate that. And honestly, that's why I was like, yeah, maybe he can't talk. It's like, oh no. And I can also appreciate, hey, you guys are on baby duty and stuff. So maybe this is a nice little side thing as far as entertainment.
So while it's a doctor's appointment, so I'm on solo dad for a couple hours. this afternoon, which I have fucked up before. Last time I was solo dad, she just screamed for the entire 2 hours for her mom.
Aww.
So, yeah, we're going to see if I can get it. I can nail it this time.
Don't worry. Don't worry. Yeah. It'll happen, Tim. The kid will get you.
Yeah.
But this is, no, man, I'm very happy about Dark Red. I think, and again, people should take advantage of Saturday. You can go to, and I know I've said it already on the commercial for this episode, but go to the Aftershock website, Google Aftershock and Halloween. That's the easiest way to get to the page. And at the bottom of the solicit, you'll see all the different states, and just click on your state, and you'll see what stores are participating, and you can get the book.
I mean, what better way to take your kid trick-or-treating than get comics?
100%.
Right?
Good Lord.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
I wish if we'd had that when we were kids.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, my God.
Well, that's the great thing right now. And I mean, we'll get into it later as far as just the bigger horror picture, both in comics and I really think TV and film right now. And I think that everything's in a very interesting place than where it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, the only consistency with anything is that horror always works. It's the only guarantee.
Interesting.
Other things obviously Westerns come and go, and
yes.
and the romantic comedy has come and
yes,
and lived and died. And I mean, now we're in this sort of era where the only things that work in the theater
yes
are blockbusters and horror. That's it. That's the only two things that people go see. Because even when you trade sort of the fact that you can sit at home and watch anything, the only two things that you would go to theater for are experiences or events, and that's big blockbuster. It's an event. You share it with the audience.
Yes,
yeah, exactly.
Yes. It's like especially this season, going to the haunted house and hearing other people screaming and stuff like that.
It's totally part of the
100%.
experience. And you can go with your friends. You can,
sure.
Teenagers will always love horror because it's when you sort of first realize that someday you will die. And you know what I mean, and and then you also and then you also
interesting.
You start in the pursuit of sex, and and that makes you that puts you into the next stage of your life where at some point you're going to create life. So you have all these things in your head, and you just want to see someone tormented on stage so that you can live vicariously and shut your eyes when you want to, so you don't have to see it. So there's it always works, and I think that's great. And you see now, because of that, the business side of that is going to be you spend, $200 million to make a blockbuster like Avengers Endgame or something, and you make your money because that's a big thing. But if you spent that money on a movie that didn't, you'd be losing your ass.
Of course.
But on a horror movie, you can spend $4 million, and you can make $16 million, or you can make 24, or whatever it is.
Right.
And you're fucking happy as shit. And there's there's no other thing that you can do that. You can spend $30 million on a romantic comedy, and you make 10 the first weekend or 5 or something.
Are we getting films like Blair Witch from 20 years ago in terms of being, if not micro budget, really small budget, and suddenly absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot less than micro budget, but I mean, Blumhouse exists on $1 million movies, right? And a lot of their
I don't know how many of their projects are reasonably.
Yeah, they're like $1 million to $2 million to whatever. But yeah, the average, budget of a horror movie that comes out now is about $4 million.
Okay.
So, $4
to... that's certainly, again, compared to Endgame and stuff like that. Good Lord.
And if you make 16 on the first weekend, or you make 20, 20, 30, whatever, you're doing great. And so... But I mean, and you'll see there's sort of deluge of that sort of stuff too. But even on the lower end of it, there's enough sort of fandom. And again, horror is the only genre really that has that really rabid fan base that will see everything, right? There's no such thing as rom-com con, right? There's no rom-com con. I fuck that up every time I make that joke.
That's hilarious. Right? You're right.
But there isn't.
Absolutely.
But there is.
I'll be at the Sleepless at Seattle booth. I love that. Let's hear your panel about that again.
It's not a thing, right?
You're right. Call me may or be my always be my maybe.
Yeah, right. There's no such thing.
That's
and
hilarious.
Part of that is fans of horror tend to be looked down on, or horror is scoffed at by the mainstream critics, and sort of as seen as something less because it's exploited, and that makes the people who like it feel like outsiders and makes them love it more, right?
Sure.
There you go.
No, absolutely, yes. Yeah, don't mainstream my thing. Yeah. I like my thing being my thing.
Which is funny, and horror fans have only gotten they've gotten more content, and they're still happy. They're like the nicest people. They're like the opposite of superhero fans.
I really haven't gone to a horror convention just because, again, man, I don't know. It's funny. I think, what's weird, Tim? I think because like you said, teenagers realizing their own mortality around that time. Maybe, and seriously, this isn't going to become a pity party, but losing my parents as early as I did.
Yeah.
I mean, I was aware of this shit around 5. I mean, that's, when my mom died, and it's like, well, when am I going to die? And I remember having that conversation with my father and stuff. Don't worry about it. All right. And I like... Yeah. I still like classic horror. Yeah. I really still love the Universal stuff and the Hammer stuff and everything.
I have those the 2 box set of those on my shelf right there, right now. So, yeah.
See, and guy, like when Alex Ross did all those great Blu-ray covers a couple years ago, I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. Yeah. But I don't know, man. I still can't warm up to.
That's it. I mean,
70s, like, The Exorcist and all that shit that came out in the 70s scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, well, it's supposed to.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I didn't want to be scared. I didn't want to see it. I don't know.
And for me, I have the generalized anxiety disorder, so I'm scared of a bunch of nothing all the time. All the time, I'm scared of things that probably won't happen. That's like my biggest problem. So, for some sort of medication, for me, has always been to. Interesting. Disappear into a story about something to be afraid of, and just be able to control it. I can stop it. I can fast forward it. I can, it's not real, but I can feel that emotion and control it for just a second, which I can't control it every other day of my life. Right. Mm-hmm. So there's it right there. That's what makes me passionate about it. I'm sure that's true of a lot of horror fans.
Interesting.
And just the sort of I don't know you think of like other cultures used to accept and deal with death a little bit more. Like you would have corpses around, right? Like you know, in ancient tribal cultures, the dead would rot right in front of you. You saw what a skull looked like. But we put it away, right? We hide it, bury it, and we don't deal with it. Someone dies, they're just gone, and you just try not to experience. So to some degree, I think there's this ground in your brain needs to experience that stuff. Like even though you don't keep your grandparents' body around and let sort of deal with their loss by watching them decay, this makes you confront it, right? Like we give you a sort of rubbery version, or a CGI version.
That's true.
Yeah.
No. Let's bring it back to your comments because I'm interested in the way that horror has changed in the last 15, 20 years and stuff compared to what you've done with Hack Slash. Do you feel like you're approaching things differently with Hack Slash than you were back at the start?
Huh, that's interesting. I don't think I do. But certainly the references for a while had to change because there was this sort of period where people didn't grow up on 80s slashers in the same way I did,
right.
or that genre wasn't as prevalent. Like maybe so the books have been around for 15 years. Maybe 10 years ago, like 5 years after I'd done it, I would start to notice like kids didn't know who Freddy was or whatever, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And so the references to that kind of story didn't seem to hit as well. But then those things came back, and now, I mean, everybody knows who Chucky is, and even if they didn't make a remake, every kid on Earth knows who Chucky is.
Sure.
So it's weird. Like, I think maybe I was a little careful to be like, I know that this is built around a very 80s specific phenomenon. But then that kind of story, and I think maybe, I remember once having a meeting, like a Hollywood meeting, where they said, no one's watching slasher movies anymore. We all want Japanese horror remakes. And I was like, that's going to fade. And I was fucking right. I was right. Because that shit, when was the last time you saw the fucking, Grudge or anything?
Yeah.
They had their moment.
Yes. And they isn't that interesting because, isn't Korea really, putting out some really great horror?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that stuff has...
Train to Busan and stuff?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, even me.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
I'm like, it is an amazing movie. And that's what I mean. I'm like, and it's... I heard so many great things about it. Or what was the one was it Jason Sudeikis and somebody else, where a woman was kind of telepathically, this is more kaiju, but it was
Colossal?
called... What was
Colossal.
Colossal, yeah. I hadn't seen it, but I heard about it, and it sounded fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, there's just... I guess the idea with horror stuff is that the context changes, right? Obviously, like all stories do, but the basics of horror stay the same, and maybe that's why you don't have to sort of reinvent yourself with it, and maybe that's why it sticks around. Is that the basic appeal is always the same, no matter culturally what happens. I mean, obviously, Get Out sort of changes the game to some degree because but there was always horror movies about race, but this one came at a time when it was really important to have that movie, right? It was the beginning of Trump. We had just gotten that sort of thing.
Yes. Isn't it interesting that clicked, but Red State didn't? Kevin Smith's...
He was too early.
Interesting. Well,
I think it was too early.
Yeah, but it was kind of in the middle of the middle.
But we didn't recognize that there was this like growing sort of discontent. And I think to some degree because it's sort of, I don't know, like there's a demonization. Did you see the Joe Bob thing where he talks about
No, talk to me.
All right,
yes, talk to me. And I have nothing but respect for Joe Bob Briggs.
He's brilliant.
He's got whatever his real name is. And I'm really glad that he's kind of come back and is an important voice out there.
Well, he did this great presentation called "How Rednecks Save Hollywood."
Go on.
And the gist of it was essentially that as we've sort of come to, and this actually comes back to my capitalism rant too, but but part of the thing was like as we've kind of come to recognize more and more people as human, it's become less okay to demonize them, right?
Of course.
So like you had like the 70s sort of the Fear of Savages, you know, these cannibal movies.
Yep.
You had this, I mean, and those things all became not okay to like demonize people or, you know, any of the sort of the victims of these scares, you know. But Joe Bob's theory was that the only thing left that it's okay to make fun of are rednecks. And so like it's completely okay to this day, you know, starting with Texas Chainsaw Massacre and going back even before, but
absolutely
but having, you know, like this American inherent fear, the city people, the urban people having this discomfort with driving through rural places.
Yes.
These poor and often less educated people, and sort of demonizing them is still okay. Which leads to those people being pissed off and saying "fuck you" and we'll vote for this guy that you hate because you know what he is. You live in the city, you know what an asshole this guy is. But it worked, right?
Fascinating.
Like, so, but it all comes down to this. I think, you know, we to some degree, you know, are always looking for those things where the horror is a parable, and I think sometimes horror is such a parable that it sees something before it happens, right? It sort of sees this
presages.
This this discontent, this anger that we were afraid of, and then it happened.
Isn't it interesting that horror has taken that role, and science fiction used to take that role, and still does
to a degree?
But isn't that and I never again. I'm walking in the horror museum with you, and I'm like, no, you are explaining this all to me because I never really considered.
When you think about sci-fi, the problem for sci-fi is that to make a really appealing sci-fi movie to cover what it costs to do sci-fi, you don't have to make a pretty light on message movie.
But then again, I mean, I'm even talking about like Twilight Zone level sci-fi too.
Oh, sure.
I mean, that's the thing. And again, really going back to, you know, the original Frankenstein and stuff. That is absolutely. That is an argument against science. And again,
it's a science fiction movie. That is not a horror movie. I mean, not a horror story. It's a horror story.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It kind of did morph into a horror story, but there is still the science element.
It's a gothic story. It's all, but it is a science fiction story. It's like the first sci-fi story, right?
Sure.
It extrapolates a fear of technology into a modern parable, warning us about that thing, right?
So screwing with what we shouldn't be screwing with. Absolutely,
So that's the first sci-fi. Really
interesting.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. No, you know when I did that TV show, Prophets of Science Fiction, the first subject was Mary Shelley.
Absolutely,
and it didn't even occur to me, and I'm like, that's brilliant. Of course it is. Yeah, man, and it's that's fantastic. No, and again, I mean, that's the thing. The different areas that horror does go into with surgery gone wrong and things like that, and you know,
I mean, or just. Yeah, I mean, I think horror. The idea, I think, the science fiction is sort of a warning, it's extrapolation, right? And horror is playing off your existing fears of something, right? So you are afraid of going to surgery, right?
Right.
We all are.
Right.
I chickened out. I was supposed to get a vasectomy last week, and I just shit it out. I couldn't do it. Could not get my nuts cut. But the fear there, you know, was really basic. I mean, it really wasn't about the cutting. It was about the permanence. It was about
I understand, sure,
and also trusting someone else to all these things.
Well,
So making a horror story about that would be pretty easy because I know what that emotion is.
Oh,
like.
God,
and everybody understands it,
sure.
Right? So I mean, I probably wouldn't make Dr. Giggles or something, but I could,
or even like moments like Jacob's Ladder when he's got, you know, the God, and I literally have had those dreams where I'm on the table or whatever, and I am screaming, but I can hear myself in the dream just whispering.
Yeah,
it's you're half awake, half asleep. Anyway, that's my own psychosis. All right, back to Hack Slash. So 15th anniversary, man. What's the plan here?
So we're doing a book. It comes out. I just got the last pages today, but we're doing a book that's a a sort of celebration of having done this for 15 years. So I brought back a bunch of the artists, had them do like pieces for it. So
great.
Emily Stone does a piece.
Wonderful.
Stefano Caselli does a piece.
Terrific.
I do a few. I did a story, wrote one for Dan Leister to draw. It's the main story. The short pitch. The story is called "Our Darlings Are Killing Us," and it's about basically, I'm lamenting how I don't have a movie deal, and so I wish Cassie would be real, and then she comes alive instead of a movie, and then she tries to kill me because I ruined her life. So it's a kind of a little parable there, and
hilarious.
And then there's a bunch of like infographics about like I had these two guys, Jeff Bond and Craig Elner, who were like life, not lifelong, but the 15-year readers of the book. I had them go through and count like all the, how many people we kill and how many underpants we showed, and just shit like that. So there's like all these infographics, and then I brought in sort of people who. There's a guy named Sam Eggleston who had been a longtime fan of the book. And he'd always ask me if he could write a story. Always asked me. I was like, okay, fine, write one. So I hired Sam to write a story. Teamed him up with an artist named Jay DeFoy, and then I had two local people, Brian Crowley and Jules Shaparov, do a short story.
Great. We know.
So
Brian,
just kind of yeah. So I try to keep it like sort of just a celebration, and then say thank you to everybody, and also sort of like open it up for new people, to some degree, like and definitely like reward people who have been fans of it for a really long time. Some of them very literally by being like, hey, I'm going to hire you to work on it. So
that's excellent. Yeah. Well, and I've wondered about that because you have handed Cassie off to Vlad to other people and stuff. Have they come back with ideas that you've incorporated when you come back to the character yourself?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's weird for me.
That's like the greatest compliment is to create something so good that you can have other creators come in and put their stamp on it and stuff. And I mean, that's what Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, and the like were all about.
But it's still weird. Like I definitely hire people knowing that I want their voice on it, but it doesn't matter. It's always sort of bugs me to some degree. Like it just does. Even have my own brother worked on it. It still kind of bothered me.
Because it's yours?
Yeah. I mean, it just...
Or did they change things? Or
no, I told them to change things. I mean, I told them to do it.
Yeah, what is the edict in terms of, hey, I want to pitch you a hack slash story?
I mean, as long as it's good. I don't, I mean...
they're clearly fans. They understand the characters and everything.
And like with Teeny or somebody's like, she... I hate to say this, but it's basically true. She started reading when she was like 16, right? So she grew up on it.
That's adorable.
And so for
she's
her,
great.
And she's
honestly, every time I see her, I'm like, "Hey, Teeny's good, man." I think she's great. She's a hell of a writer. I'm so proud of her. Really, I don't even know her that well, but I'm just saying that's how she's advanced her career and stuff. I'm like, "Go, Teeny, nice going."
And for her, to bring in sort of her viewpoint on it, I wanted that. I wanted, to hear what someone had to say that was 16 years old, was closer in age and obviously gender that when they first encountered the character than I was. So I wanted to see that. I don't know, like that's it's still it's still to me like, and I just tell them like you do what you want. I have a couple of things I would like you to hit, but you can get there however you like. But it's I try not to. I'm not tyrannical about it or anything.
I'm not.
And my basic thing is just like don't ruin anything. Just
Dude,
don't take anything away.
I'm so happy when I see cosplay and I see Cassie cosplay, and it's just like that is awesome, man.
And the other day, so I was thinking about. I was like, what? I hadn't seen at a comic convention. I haven't seen a Cassie this year.
Okay.
And so I was thinking about that, and then I looked up. I was just curious, and I put in a search on Instagram.
Sure.
And I discovered there's this whole world of horror convention Cassies that I don't know about.
Oh, that's great.
Because they don't tag me.
Well, sure.
And because they're not comic fans, they don't know who the fuck I am.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, how are they, they're finding the character but not really.
Yeah, they're finding it, but they don't care about me.
That's hilarious.
Right?
That's
or they don't care about me enough to, tag me and fucking Instagram.
Well, and obviously they're seeing the art there, and they're thinking the art probably more than the writer.
Probably, But there was hundreds. I mean, there was like hundreds of pictures. So
that's excellent.
Yeah, so that
what's that cool. Like? Is it hashtag Cassie or?
There was hashtag /cosplay maybe or cosplay or /. I don't know, or maybe it was / and cosplay 2 tags. I think it was that. It was both of them.
Okay, that's cool.
I was just
That's hilarious.
I was
Guess what I'll be doing later this afternoon?
Well,
Absolutely.
and I posted some
That's
of them on
great.
my Twitter. It's great. There's like all kinds of different people.
Yeah.
Younger, like real young,
Sure.
like 13, 14, and then
yikes.
like up to, but they're not like doing it naughty or anything. Thank God.
Yes,
But, yeah,
yes.
and there's Vlads in there and stuff.
Terrific. That's excellent.
Yeah, so I mean, it still works, and I can just sort of let it run, which is nice, like because horror, again, like I said, horror fans are a different kind of fandom. They don't, comic fans, you just have to like chase them down and beg them to be interested, and horror fans, you don't, they find things and they know, they hear about it from their friends and they share things and they just want to enjoy it. They don't. I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, it means that you're less likely to you go to a convention as a comic book guy at a horror convention. It'll be all right. Because they're not used to that kind of thing as much as they are to, movie stars they're not
Right.
trained, I guess, like comic fans are. But they still find it. They buy the books. We went to a horror convention Paul and I went to buy a decoration for the new house.
Okay.
Bought a bunch of old Hammer horror posters.
Outstanding.
Actually. But I passed a booth and they had a rack of Hack/Slash omnibuses there for sale. They had no idea who I was. I bought a book. I gave them my credit card. I was just curious,
See what happens.
see what happened. And nope.
That's hilarious.
The name didn't ring, which is great. It's fine.
No, I understand. That's great.
But yeah, so it keeps working.
Yeah. No, and like you said, there's more product than ever.
Yeah,
and I think that's cool, and we're seeing it in the stores and everything. And like you said, the horror conventions are thriving and going well. Well, back to Access, and this specific book. When does it come out? How big is
it's
it?
in December. It's 48 pages.
Cool.
Let's see. It's
Coming out through Image?
Yeah, Image Comics, yeah. Yep. And let's see. There's 2 covers, one by me and one by Tyler Walpole, which is like a recreation of the first trade cover. But I added, as sort of thank you to Image, the Image creators loaned me their characters. So it's Cassie, but it's like versus Savage Dragon and Gert from I Hate Fairyland, Tony Chu and Witchblade and a bunch of characters. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so
that's
a
great.
little like celebration.
Yeah. No, absolutely, man.
I
That's
love
right.
that shit,
And how long have you been in Image with Hack/Slash?
So that'll be that's 9 years. We've been,
That's great.
So since 2010.
Yeah.
So it'll be 10 years pretty soon. Actually, like this fall or this spring will be 10 years.
How many volumes of trades?
There's 6 omnibus, and there's
6 omnibus.
There's 6 omnibus, and there is 15, 16, 17, 18. There's about 20 trades.
Fantastic.
Yeah, there's like 13
Jim,
main series.
That's awesome.
There's a lot of Hack/Slash.
That's amazing.
There's 13 main series. There's Hack/Slash versus Zealordi, Hack/Slash versus Vaporilla, Hack/Slash versus Chaos, Hack/Slash versus Crow. One other trade.
Evil Dead?
That Army of Darkness.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Army of Darkness. And what else?
Oh, and Reanimator?
Well, that's in the omnibus.
Oh, that's in the omnibus.
Some of them I could collect and reprint, but some of them are separate trades. So.
I'm with you. Okay.
But yeah, and then there's 2 Resurrection trades, so
crazy,
and 1 Son of Sam Hain. So there's like 21 trades.
That's amazing, man. That's beautiful. Seriously, that's
a lot of stuff. Yeah.
That's outstanding. Beautiful, man. Well, and let's talk about the new book, Money Shot, now from Vault.
Not horror,
but hilarious. And literally, like the first joke, literally made me laugh out loud.
The first line of the book is "Fuck me, sexy fish man."
Well, that's why. Yeah, and it's
we just going all in, right?
well, you can't help but think of Shape of Water, obviously.
Right, yeah.
But no, the premise here is, man, you thought James T. Kirk was going out having sex with all the green girls and everything, and I forget her name right now. Your main character.
It's Chris. Also known as Tesla Coil is her porn name.
Okay, yeah. Tesla Coil. Yes, and this is the thing. So you explain the premise, or I'd be happy to either do that or read the
short version is
because you got a preface page that kind of sets up the status quo of where the world is.
But basically, in the future, the ability of scientists to fund themselves is even worse than it is now, and so there's no passion for research and science. So this woman realizes that as this is happening, there's also this universal sort of jadedness with porn. Like everybody's seen everything. So she comes up with an idea that if they if they film their exploits of going into space and of exploration and as porn, they can charge money for it, and they will be able to fund their research. Yeah, their research. And the main thing is they created this thing called Starshot, named after the moonshot. It was this research project that can basically teleport you across wide distances of space. But everyone calls it money shot because it costs so much to use it, which is the name of the title, you perverts. It's not really about, Right. But the name of their project, everyone calls it money shot because it blows a load every time it goes, right? But they start using it, and they end up on this planet in the first issue in search of a source of power for their project. So, and I won't tell you I'll leave it to you guys, but the source of their possible power is crazy and funny, and that becomes a thing. That's co-written with the comedian Sarah Beatty. She does a lot of the jokes that I couldn't get away with. Because there are plenty. And
yes, there are. Well, that's great. Absolutely, go on. Yeah.
And then Rebecca Isaacs is artist. Kurt Michael Russell is the colorist. Crank is on letters through Vault with the Wassel brothers, who are some great dudes. It just came out yesterday, so I'm still in the weird, I'm seeing reviews for it, and people are tagging me.
Yeah, what are they saying?
I mean, it's overall really positive, but there are definitely people who are just like, this is exploitive, or this is cheap, or... Which,
But you get Rebecca and you get, Beatty on it.
Yeah, but when you make something, and I was warned about this by every publisher I pitched it to, which was, because I pitched it earlier, I was, with Image and Top Cow, I told those guys I wanted to do this book, and they're like,
what did they say? I can't imagine what because, Top Cow, Witchblade and stuff like that.
Yeah, but titillation. But he said, there's something very specific about porn that, as far as California, people in California have an adverse reaction to it.
Why?
Because they
oh my God, the birth, one of the main
industry.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think in Hollywood there's a judgment about it, right? I think to some degree
Interesting. Go on.
I'm not even. It's not even really theory. I'm sure this is what it is. They feel that it's illegitimate, that these people can do whatever they want and they can sell this sort of stuff and make a lot of money. And they don't have to live in the sort of world that the film does, Okay. I think there's a jealousy about it to some degree, and they really try to keep, it's certainly at some point, and maybe even now, some porn obviously is really, some of the way it's made is bad, and
sure,
and so they really struggle with, in Hollywood. I mean, they've also done these things, and they sort of struggle with, legitimacy and all that sort of stuff. So, but I think there's always, one of the reviews was like, this feels as empty as porn to me. It's like, well, what fucking porn are you watching? Jesus. That's on you, man.
Find better porn. Note to self.
That's on you, dude.
Exactly. Interesting.
But I just think it's interesting because there's always... I guess I did a fucking slasher book, so I remember having people be like, well, that's cheap. That's not legitimate. It wasn't as bad as the way people reacted to this, but I'm used to it. I like trash. I like trash culture. I like things that you don't like. So
I've had this conversation with Shaken. Exactly, man. It's like, hey, I like smutty entertainment. It's like, hey, man, I understand.
Yeah, I've always B movies and all this stuff that
exploitive.
People, there's some exploitive, or whatever. But so what?
Yes.
To me, telling stories about rich, basically money porn, which is telling people stories about rich people and how wonderful their lives are. And I was like, fuck you. That's exploitive to me. I don't think this is exploitive. I think that's exploitive. So, so I think there's...
Plus, it's funny.
It's a comedy.
It absolutely is a comedy. And Rebecca's art is great. I told you, I'm like, I like Chris. Chris is cute. Tesla Coyle's cute. She is.
She's kind of an asshole, but you'll like her.
She's an asshole, but exactly. And you understand her agenda. And it's a funny sci-fi sex book. Yeah, what's wrong with it?
But it's also, there is a message to
Paul
it.
McCartney.
Yeah.
Go on.
And there's obviously, social critique inside it.
Well, no, absolutely.
They have to fund their science.
Right.
We should be paying for science.
Well, and again, you might be presaging. I don't think anyone's going to go to the extreme of, having, and I don't know how many scientists are going to be worth seeing from a porn standpoint. As the case with Tesla Coyle. But no, it's true. It's like, there is this whole backlash, and obviously that's part of the subtext of the book, towards science.
Absolutely.
And the need for science, and just this real rejection Where it's coming from, I'm sad, but whatever.
Well,
and it's kind of a reality.
I think it comes from there's this sort of, again, like when there's a backlash against how rural people sort of feel left behind by progress, then they're like, well, what good does your science do for me? What good does your book learning do for me? And they're not stupid people; they're just not helped by this, and that's on us. Like that's on that we pick these politicians that don't help people, right? That don't give money to themselves or their buddies or their kids instead of helping spread it around, right? So, I mean, I understand why people associate science with elitism, which it's not. But it's gotten associated with that for a long time. And I wanted to deal with that in the book about, and also like to some degree, there's a judgment about scientists, but there's also, I mean, you can see the way people are sort of dismissive of adult, sex workers. There's a backlash against them, I think, to some degree, even though everybody, like you watched when Stormy Daniels came out about this, and just the way that the mainstream reporters were just so ready to savage her as being, well, some, clearly she's a scumbag. She's a porn star.
Oh, that's maybe I'm just a weird, dirty guy because I never really got that.
Well, you wouldn't think that, but the media certainly does. I think.
Interesting.
Because we look down on people who sell their bodies.
Well, and I mean, it didn't help that obviously the guy is married. The guy's married to a former supermodel who still looks great for her age. So I don't know. That you really get very base and be like, "The hell's the guy doing?" Obviously, it's like, but again. Whatever.
Wait, and then you think she sleeps with him?
No,
she does not.
No, no. And to be honest, I mean, and a guy who obviously grew up on Playboy and stuff. I was more bummed about the other one, Karen McDougal, who I remember quite well in Playboy, and being very disappointed that she's like, yeah, we kind of developed a relationship. It's like, wow. I'm like, well,
but, I mean,
I have less of an opinion of you than I used to when I was buying Playboy as a kid.
But we do that with women. Just we expect them. I don't know. We judge them for doing whatever they want with their bodies and shit. Like, I felt like that would have to be part of the story. It also felt like that's not a story that I should be talking about specifically. So bringing in Sarah to say things and think of things that I
got to find her stand-up.
She's an internet mostly comedian. Okay. She's a Twitter celebrity. Okay. She has 400,000 followers.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So
does she do like stand-up? Is there video for YouTube or anything?
No, she writes for TV shows and stuff. She wrote for a couple TV shows and stuff.
Oh man, as this goes on, I'd love to talk to her.
But she's when we announced this book, people were, oh great, Seeley's on this. But what, Sarah Beatty? Like, all my comic book friends were like, you got Sarah Beatty to do books?
That's fantastic.
And I've known her for 10 years. I just thought it was funny that, all these, I mean, it was like big creators I know were like, God, I would have asked her if I'd have known she liked comics. Like, you dumb fucks.
Tim, this is what I love about you. Seriously, man. You whether it's artists or writers, you find these people that I'm certainly not aware. I wasn't aware of Teeny before she was working with you, and then now Sarah obviously is another one.
Yeah.
No, it's great, and it's a funny book. Yeah. So if you're not uptight, I would say
it's an
absolutely.
Offensive book, but yes,
it's definitely, and that's fine. I mean, and literally from that first line, it's like, okay, this is where we are. Fine.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And again, the title, Money Shot, and everything. It's funny. I was telling you, I saw one of the variants that you put on Twitter the other day, and it didn't even occur to me. And I should have, Money Shot. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention to solicits or anything, so I didn't know what it was about. I'm like, oh, all right. And then as I said, as we sat down, you're like, hey, you want to read it? I'm like, yeah, of course I want to read it. And I'm like, oh, this is great. And it's, hey, man, again, if you're not uptight, it's a very funny book.
I'm bringing trash to you, but I'm trying to make it smart. Like, the whole game is always take the thing that people judge and then put emotion and real characters in it. That's what I think is what I do. Like, I'll take a slash movie, and it's usually got stupid and whatever exploitive, and we're going to still do stupid exploitive, but we're going to put heart in it, we're going to put soul in it, we're going to put relationships in it, right? That's what we're doing. And that's what this is.
That's awesome, man. No, it's honestly, I think it's terrific. I thought it was very funny, and and also good science fiction in there as well. And you can tell from, again, I've only read the first issue, but where it's going and stuff, you will see science fiction tropes that I'm sure are just waiting for your guys' humor to skewer and have fun with and everything. That's terrific, and that's why I make the Captain Kirk allusion as well, because
there's certainly it's impossible to ignore the Kirk in the room. So the elephant cock in the room. But yeah, that's definitely, and I remember when I was first started researching that I wanted to do this book, I saw people talking about a porn parody of Star Trek The Next Generation by, I believe, Axel Brown. I think it was who did it. And he's known for making these really high quality... Is he the one who does
all the superhero ones?
Yeah, it's really high quality stuff.
The Batman one was amazing.
Yes, that's
the Batman one, good lord. And I mean, it was like costumes a bunch of... costumes and like a bunch of like bad CGI sets. But it's like, no, this guy really put some thought into... Yeah, he really cares. And if you're a Adam West Batman fan, you'll appreciate the level of detail.
Yeah.
Between the fuck scenes.
Yeah. Well, that's what someone said about his Star Trek. I'm pretty sure it was him. But someone said, it's like a really good episode of Star Trek, and then they bone. And I was like, man, I want to see that.
I absolutely would like to see that all the time. Good lord, we're not getting that on. We're certainly not getting that on Star Trek Discovery.
No. But that sounded great to me. That,
sure,
like that, and that was sort of
inspiration.
And the genesis for this book was, that it was a joke. I think it might have been my wife said it, which was we were talking about how hard it was to fund science, and to get people to care. And I believe my wife said they should just make porn. And I was like, that's a fucking idea. That's the whole thing. So
I don't know. You may not remember him because he was really from the 60s and 70s. But my buddy Doug Buffone, who used to be one of the football analysts on The Score, former Chicago Bear, and he's like, I don't know, John. You just got to figure out a way to make money. I'm like, Doug, we got to start doing porn. He's like, John, and I'm like, Doug, porn and gambling are the two things that work on the internet. This is like late '90s. I'm like, this is what we got to do. It's like, you're nuts. And I'm like,
you were right. And also selling hate. That's the other thing.
Well, yeah, sadly, yes.
That's the one you missed.
Isn't it sad that, yes, there's the obvious hate, but now it's kind of it's like invaded our party and the nerd party and all the hate nerd pundits.
I don't think it invaded it. I think it came on.
I guess it was on the message boards, but now with YouTube, you really do have these. I mean, and hey, man, I'm the first one that always complains about how much I dislike Star Trek Discovery, for example. I don't think I'm a hater. I don't think
you dislike something, but I think that's totally fine. And if you're a fan of something,
it comes up on my show. I won't deny that.
Well, it's totally fine. But there's a difference between, like, sort of being a fan of a media or of a medium or a genre or IP or whatever, but and disagreeing with how it's executed or whatever, not feeling that's fine.
Right.
But I think what happened early on is that people. They take these things. They take the thing they like as almost a religion, and it's their identity. And then when you don't do it right, then you're insulting them personally.
Yes,
and so then it becomes like politics and religion. And then the media companies realized that this was exploitable. So because they knew that people would come there to disagree or hate on it or whatever, so they started exploiting it because it was clicks. They don't care about anything else except clicks. So that's what I mean. We did this. This was another fucking. Captain's gone wrong. But we basically turned everything into religion. Everything defines who you are, and then we keep picking at it because we know that we pick the scab. You will pay attention. Outrage sells. Yep. It sells better than contentedness, right?
Absolutely. Yes, you're right. Yeah, everything's great.
I can just watch on Twitter. It happens every day. Somebody people are hitting it now. The media is just. I mean, it's funny that they don't realize what they're doing. That they're part of the problem. They're eventually these people are going to hate the reporters, and the reporters are the ones that are going to end up in the fucking camps. But they do this thing where they're like they interview some great director, right? They did it with Scorsese.
Scorsese did the Marvel movies.
Okay. Yeah. Now they're doing it with
Coppola.
Right, and then now they're doing it with old British, directors. I don't know, was it William Friedkin?
David Lean or something.
And they asked him, and they're just ask an old man, and he's like, what? And they just pressed him.
And Friedkin, really?
I don't remember if it was Friedkin.
Friedkin, Chicago's very own.
Yeah, it was. But it was
That's interesting.
I can't remember who it was.
Yeah,
it was another white old guy. But they pressed him until he just finally went, no, I don't like those movies. And then they were like, yes, that's the headline.
Sir David Lean says he hates Marvel movies.
Yeah, because they knew it would get clicks. They know that if they insult the thing that you like, I mean. Millennials fall for this shit all the time. Headline is always millennials killed, and then insert this here, and then they know millennials will come to the fucking site and hate read that shit, even if it's bullshit. They will hate read it. Like, fuck you, we did not kill
Star Trek.
Yeah, Star Trek or
Love and Discovery.
Yeah.
What the hell's wrong with you?
Or avocado toast or whatever the fuck they killed, or didn't kill or whatever. But it's just all about we know that your cult. That's fucking comic books. Comic books have always been that. You love this? Oh, we'll flip it on its head. We'll reboot this character, and then the fans, they know it gets them, pissed off.
Yeah,
pissed off sells. That's just the way it is.
You're killing it.
It comes from that.
Have you seen Joker?
No, I haven't. I would love to see it. It came out the weekend. The Baby.
I was going to say The Baby. Obviously, I figured that was the case.
I would like to see it. I'm withholding judgment. I'm not on either side of this sort of like.
Well, you can't be until you see it.
Yeah, and I'm not. This the idea that like, the media again. This is another thing. They wanted some kind of like incel mass murderer out of this thing.
Yeah, isn't that shitty?
Sick.
Isn't that shitty?
Super sick.
I completely agree with you. And again, I get it slightly because of what happened during Dark Knight Rises and the one incident.
One incident, which is terrible.
But and also, but there are also assholes because when I saw it first weekend, I saw it on Sunday, and AMC downtown. I don't know if you read this.
There's two guys that got kicked out.
Yeah, for smoking and laughing like assholes and stuff.
But so what?
Yeah, and you're right, and I'm glad that happened. Yeah. In terms of good. By all means, why don't you spend a night in jail for being assholes? Because don't be jerks.
But they wanted to frame it as like it's because of this movie. No, it's because they're assholes.
Right. Well, the assholes had it. This movie was their excuse to be assholes in public.
Yeah.
But kind of like that guy that, in a very different way, when he made the YouTube video of going up to Rob Liefeld, giving him the how to draw the Marvel way or whatever. You need this one, and it's like, fuck you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Fuck you. I'm so glad that it backfired on that guy. Honestly, I mean, I know non-Rob Liefeld fans that are like, hey, fuck you.
Yeah.
Rob's Rob. Leave him alone.
But it's also this idea that you can sort of make your name by being a prick.
Yes.
You used to not get away with that. Like, we would hold you in moral judgment for being a fucking dick about it.
Yes.
And now it's just sort of, hey, however you get there. There's actually a line in Money Shot where the guy's embarrassed to do this thing. He says, what if this ruins my life? And he says, being embarrassed in public doesn't ruin your life anymore. I mean, it doesn't. As long as you get there, no one cares how you got there.
Right.
Which is sad.
It's sick. It's sick. Have you seen King of Comedy?
No.
That's the thing about Joker in terms of the referential.
It's a 70s
tone,
right?
Well, and that was 80 or early 80s, but still Scorsese, and
it's very Scorsese. Obviously,
it's very Scorsese.
Taxi Driver.
Yes, very much Taxi Driver, very much Mean Streets, very much those things. Yeah. Certainly Taxi Driver.
I've seen all those. Yeah.
Well, there you go. But like King of Comedy would be worth seeing, especially given that you're stuck here and everything in terms of baby duty, because the end of King of Comedy, I think, when it played in the early '80s, was much in the same way that Network. You know Network.
Oh, I love that movie.
See, and then when Network was made, it's like, well, it's never going to get that crazy.
Yeah.
And here we are.
No, that movie.
Here we are. Yeah. And I don't think Patty Chayefsky even realized at the time. It's like, well, they'll never go that far. It's like literally Aldous Huxley when he wrote Brave New World.
Yeah.
And they adapted it for radio like in the early 50s. And he's like, originally I had this thing set in 500 years from now. Now I'm thinking maybe 100 or 200 years.
Shit, maybe 15.
And yeah, exactly. And it's like, that, and I'm sure that, and again, I would love to talk to Scorsese about where King of Comedy, where the world is now compared to King of Comedy. And that's why, and again, I hope you'll see it, because I keep telling people, as much as I had my issues with Joker, I do recommend people see it for themselves.
I mean, it made as much money as Avengers Endgame almost.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah.
Isn't that insane? And I'm like, and it's so funny because at first they're like, well, there won't be a sequel. I'm like, you bet your fucking ass there's going to be a sequel.
I mean, there'll be another Joker movie.
Yes.
Right? Just a different Joker.
Well, we'll see. And and then depending on where the story goes and where they want it, because Joaquin Phoenix would never do it. I'm like, that's a 1970s, that was an Adam West problem. Yeah. And that's what, that was my big problem with the movie Birdman. With Keaton, because I'm like, I get it, but I'm like, that's a 20-year-old problem. That's not a modern problem.
Yeah.
Downey and Christian Bale and all these other great actors have proven, no, you can still do art while you're doing the popcorn movies.
Yeah, and it's like make artful popcorn,
right? And Depp, even more so, Johnny Depp. It's like, tell me about the pirate movies and the indie shit that Johnny Depp still does.
Yeah.
So I'm like, bullshit. I don't know. I'm it's funny because you mentioned. The obvious references that Cassie had to the 80s movies and stuff. Are you watching American Horror Story right now?
No, I don't get network, so I have watched.
Oh,
But
okay.
I know they're doing a slasher thing. I saw the trailer.
it's very much an 80s homage.
Yeah, cool.
And well, and I remember in the day you would tell me that you would avoid, wasn't he? No, and then maybe I'm confusing. Yeah, well, certainly, that's right.
Yeah.
You and Buffy, that's right. So I don't know.
Avoid Buffy.
Is it interesting?
I mean, I would like to watch it, but if I'm going to keep doing this book, I feel like I can't.
I understand.
So there was a time when we ended it. I was like, "Now I'm going to watch fucking Buffy," and then I was like, "No, I'm going to come back to this at some point." So I can't,
I understand.
But yeah, I mean, it's.
I still like Buffy. I was more of an Angel.
Great, yeah.
I was always more of an Angel fan than I was a Buffy fan.
Yeah.
And I'm fascinated that Boom has gone back to year 0 and kind of told.
Yeah.
They have, and they're literally like before the first season of. They're telling stories before this first season of Buffy.
Oh, cool.
Which is really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially Angel. Like, it's Brian Edward Hill, who I think is a really great newer writer.
He would be great at this.
Oh yeah. So
maybe I can check those out. I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I was wondering. Well, that's the thing. I wonder how much, and even with streaming and stuff like that, do you watch horror that is streaming, that is made for streaming and stuff?
Absolutely. I mean, for a while there, Paul and I were watching like a horror movie a day for a long time, and then I stopped right around fairly recently around the time of the baby stuff.
Sure.
I don't know. There's something. I don't know. Like the real visceral. Like, have you ever been at a delivery? At a baby?
No.
Wow. I mean, everybody told me, like, it's like a thing. And I'm not the one fucking pushing and bleeding. My wife is, but I was there.
Paula, absolutely.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I've never seen... I mean, it's just... Wow. Dude, it's just, like, so visceral and so... I don't know. Like, I think you come out of it going, like, well, I need to rethink some things. Because... yeah, it's really fucking insane. I mean, just the pain and the... Like, I guess... I came out of that and said, how are there so many fucking people? That was my response to watching what occurred. How do they keep doing this? Why? But yeah. Because it's... Man, just... Yeah.
Wow.
Never seen it like...
Well, maybe it's inspired some more future stories.
Well, I used to do stories about that sort of thing, but I don't think I still don't know if I have the words to sort of just the
clearly.
Yeah, and we had complications. So
I'm sorry.
Well, I mean,
I see her.
She turned out fine.
Yeah, both of them, obviously. Yeah.
But we had like some scares, like
she's so tiny.
Yeah, and she's still hard to get out of somebody. But but we went through some moments, and then you have this like new fear that you never had before. It's like a really... And I remember King was telling me about that when we were working on the Grace at some point. He's like, well, and I was like, I trust you. I don't know if I understand. It's like, no, I did not. I did not understand it.
Is there any books or anything that we're missing as far as other things?
That's the most of the stuff I'm working on now that's like announced and going.
Any DC stuff coming up? Or
we've got Bloodshot, obviously, from Valiant.
Yes, excuse me. Yeah.
That just came out.
Yeah. So tell me about the new Bloodshot that you're doing.
Yeah, my first issue just came out. It's basically like mine is sort of a back to basics. They knew the trailer was going to drop within days of the book coming out.
When is the movie coming out?
Around Christmas, I think, right? Or
this year.
Is it? Ah, fuck, I might fuck this up.
Okay, I don't know.
I'm supposed to know this. I'm sorry, Valiant. My brain's fried. Soon-ish.
Okay.
Maybe. But we saw the first trailer. You know what? Not Christmas. It must be like spring.
Okay.
I'm an idiot. But
no worries.
But it looks... my approach was that they didn't know exactly what the final version of the movie was, but they're like, can you make us a comic that's accessible and like big, and
trade will come out around the time of the movie, obviously.
And so that's what I did. Like, there's been really dark Bloodshot stories, and they were great. Jeff did a really good job with it.
Yeah, Lemire did a fun job. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to do that, not that.
That's cool. Well, no, and I get that too.
So,
but
I mean, it's going to have character and stuff, and it's really, but it's like the story is going to be about the guy mostly. Maybe not necessarily all the context. I mean, to some degree, my story is sort of how he keeps being used by people to do things, and to some degree, if he really wanted to that not be the case, he would just seal himself up and drop himself in the Marianas Trench, right? Like, so that if he's so dangerous, he would know that, but because he feels guilty about what's happened before, he feels this need to make up for it. So all his actions are sort of driven by this guilt to at least even the score. Like for every life he took to save a life, But that keeps getting him in trouble. Every time he does that, he gets farther into something else.
Sure.
So it's just this guy constantly sort of doing damage to himself by trying to save us, right? And to some degree doing damage to us because he's still out there.
Interesting.
So, but it's big and lots of action and drawn by Brett Booth and
terrific.
And colored by Andrew Dahlhaus. So it's
Wonderful. Yeah.
Bright and yeah.
Valiant always get great people to do their stuff.
Yeah, they're amazing.
And honestly,
I love those guys. Yeah.
No, and I find myself reading more Valiant than I ever expected because I was not an original Valiant.
Yeah, and the old stuff is great too. I love the old stuff.
Well, no, I trust my friends regarding the old stuff. But yeah, man, no, I've read more Ninchak than I ever thought I would, and Bloodshot for them.
Yeah, they're great.
So yeah,
and they're just they took the idea of like doing these sort of grounded superheroes, but they didn't ruin it. Right? Because it doesn't. A lot of times, grounded superheroes end up arguing against the existence of superheroes. Right? I mean, that's what Watchmen does.
Sure.
So like, but their books, they're about the sort of reality of it, but it doesn't argue against heroism. Which I like. I like that. You have this guy who he shouldn't be doing this, but he wants to help people so bad that he keeps, and every life that he saves above what he did before, he feels like he did something good, and obviously the person's life he saved is pretty happy about it too. But I just thought let's do a superhero story at the most base level of he just wants to save you. He's Superman with a machine gun.
Very good, excellent, man. Tim, honestly, I'm thrilled. Dark Red continues, and like we said, go to your local comics shop and pick up the variant, the Halloween Fest variant. I wanted to make sure I said the event properly, and
you get it free, right? So
you did get it free, so that's a great reason to go visit your local shop. And again, go to the Aftershock webpage, and it's easier just to Google Aftershock and Halloween, and that will take you to the page, and it will direct you to the right stores to go to pick up the book. Also pick up Money Shot, #1 out this week. Very, very funny from Vault. And Bloodshot #1 from Valiant. And, of course, in December, the
15th anniversary.
Yes, indeed. Well deserved. As I told you before we started recording, Tim, and I say it every time I talk to you, or at least in the description, you've always got great high concepts, and I am appreciative of the fact that you keep coming up with new and interesting ideas. Money Shot being a great example of that, and Dark Red for that matter as well. So keep it up.
Thanks, man.
And I always appreciate these kinds of conversations, and we'll reconvene in a few months and do another one.
Yeah, let's do it.
There you go, Tim Seeley. Okay, so this is what you want to do. Saturday, you want to make sure that your local shop is celebrating Halloween Comic Fest. This weekend, this Saturday in particular, you want to try and get your free issue of Dark Red if your store is participating. And the way to make sure is to Google Aftershock Comics and Halloween 2019. It will take you to the Aftershock Comics webpage where it has all the information on what stores in which states are going to be carrying that free black and white issue of Dark Red. Also, look for Money Shot from Vault Comics. Brand new this week. Very, very funny stuff from Tim Seeley and company. Again, let me go through who else is on there. Sarah Beatty, the very funny internet comedian. Also, Rebecca Isaacs doing beautiful art. Kurt Michael Russell doing the colors. It's gorgeous. It's funny. It's raunchy in the best ways. And I think it's worth your time. So check it all out from Tim Seeley and company. Money Shot. Bloodshot #1 from Valiant Comics. Also out there. And coming in December, a 48-page new hack slash anthology with Tim and a lot of great contributions from writers and artists celebrating 15 years of hack slash, all from Tim Seeley, all part of today's conversation. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did, and I thought it was another great example of Weird Balloon. Yes, October's not over. We still got another week of it, and that means we're going to have a couple more interviews. I have a whole bunch of things penciled. A few people had to ask for postponements, people that I was going to talk to this week. I hope to get them on record before the 31st so I can release them for Halloween. But sometimes our Halloween celebration even bleeds into the following weekend. And certainly with Halloween being on Thursday, some people might be celebrating on November 2nd. Certainly people are going to be celebrating this weekend. Happy to present these Weird Balloon conversations this month to get you in the holiday spirit that is Halloween. Thanks a lot for listening today. All brought to you by, again, Aftershock Comics, who are just having one of the best months, I think, of their existence, with great new books from people like Tim Seeley, issue 7 of Dark Red. You've also got Jimmy's Bastards, the complete collection from Russ Brown and Garth Ennis. You've got Horde, a brand new 72-page original graphic novel from Marguerite Bennett and Layla Leyes. You also have Dark Ark After the Flood, brand new series as Juan Doe and Cullen Bunn continue Noah's Ark story from a very dark perspective. Dark Red, number 7 from Tim Seeley. Juan Doe's own Bad Reception, issue 3 is out there. And you also have some other great books as well, like Phil Hester and Ryan Kelly's first volume of Stronghold. So check it out for yourself, and don't forget about going and finding the comic shops that are providing that first issue of Dark Red at participating stores. Word Balloon also brought to you by the League of Word Balloon listeners via Patreon. Thank you for your subscriptions and your support, League. Greatly appreciated. If you want to join the League of Word Balloon listeners, all you have to do is subscribe to Word Balloon via Patreon. Like I said, is Word Balloon worth $1 a month to you? Is it worth the price of a comic book a month to you? If you think so and you like what I do here, I really appreciate the support you're showing via Patreon. Patreon.com/wordballoon, or click on the Patreon ad at wordballoon.com. Thank you greatly, League of Word Balloon listeners. So there you go. More great stuff coming in the days and weeks ahead to close out October, get into November. So many great people lined up. Can't wait to share these conversations with you right here at Word Balloon. And of course, as always, check out the archive. You know, you got hours, over 1,000 hours of Word Balloons to go through, of great conversations. And this month has been a great one with a lot of the conversations that I've had and will have to close out October and even open into November. Until next time, thanks a lot for listening. Word Balloon is a copyright feature of Shaky Productions. Copyright 2019.